What's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. So it seems Boris Johnson has called an unexpected cabinet meeting for 5 PM tonight, so around about the time that I'm recording this video, which has sent mainstream media outlets into complete panic. They are expecting an election to be called this week now, likely in response to the traitorous EU collaborators' plans that intend to use legislation as a way to stop Boris Johnson delivering a WTO Brexit that 498 MPs in Parliament voted for back in 2017 when they invoked Article 50. It is possible he could call a general election for a random day in October in order to get support from Parliament to hold a general election, as that is currently what's needed due to the Fixed Term Parliament Act. Then, using his prerogative powers, he could change it to a date after Brexit has already occurred and we've left on WTO terms. I hope that is what him and Dominic Cummings have planned, since Parliament is against the will of the people. It's blatantly obvious now. Let's see what the BBC had to say about it. Let's check out the BBC article on it. The article headlines, Brexit, election discussions in number 10 amid Brexit battle. Boris Johnson is considering seeking an early general election if MPs wanting to block a no-deal Brexit defeat the government this week. The BBC understands live discussions are going on in number 10 about asking Parliament to approve a snap poll. Political editor Laura Koonsberg said it could happen as soon as Wednesday, but no final decision had been taken. Tory ex-ministers are joining forces with Labour to stop the UK leaving the EU on the 31st of October without a deal. Amid mounting speculation about an election, Mr Johnson is due to hold an unscheduled cabinet meeting at 1700 hours BST, and will also speak to Conservative MPs on Monday afternoon. The Prime Minister has said the UK must leave the EU on October the 31st, with or without a deal, prompting a number of MPs to unite to try and prevent the UK leaving without an agreement. They are expected to put forward legislation on Tuesday to stop no deal under SO 24 or Standing Order 24, the rule allowing MPs to ask for a debate on a specific and important matter that should have urgent consideration. Sources have told the BBC the bill would force the Prime Minister to seek a 3-month extension until the 31st of January if no withdrawal deal has been passed by Parliament come the 19th of October, the day after the EU's next Leaders' Summit. Tory rebels have been warned that those who support the legislation face being expelled from the party and deselected. Good. This should have already happened. They should have been deselected for going against what they were voted in for. That's obvious. But leading figures, including ex-Cabinet Minister David Gauke, have insisted that despite the threat, they will press ahead and, in their words, put the national interest ahead of their own. A number 10 spokesman said it was treating this week's Brexit votes as an issue of confidence, which traditionally trigger a general election if the government loses. There is not scheduled to be another general election until 2020. Under the terms of the Fixed Term Parliament Act, Mr Johnson would require the backing of 2/3 of the UK's 650 MPs to trigger an early poll this autumn. Should this happen, the Prime Minister would be able to recommend the date of a poll, likely to be a hugely contentious issue, to the Queen. If Parliament were dissolved on Friday, then the earliest possible date for an election would be Friday the 11th of October. With polls normally taking place on a Thursday, 17th of October is potentially the more likely earliest opportunity. The EU Council Day or EU conference is on that day, so it's not likely to be then, if memory serves. So it would probably be more like the 24th, but yeah, that's the earliest it could be theoretic. But those who back a negotiated Brexit deal or want to remain in the EU are concerned the PM could delay the poll to the start of November after the UK has left the EU, making it impossible to stop a no-deal Brexit. Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn has said the UK needs a general election as it would give the people a choice between two very different directions for the country. Yeah, one is democracy, the other's Marxism. He has dismissed warnings from former Labour leader Tony Blair, who said an early election was an elephant trap, and Mr Johnson could win such a vote as some may fear a Corbyn premiership more than a no-deal Brexit. Anyone with half a brain cell would fear a Corbyn premiership more than a no-deal Brexit. Even Tony Blair fears that. SNP leader Nicola Fishlip Sturgeon said it was imperative any new government was elected before the UK's departure. Former Conservative Culture Secretary John Whittingdale, a leading Brexiteer, told the BBC he did not believe there would be time to stage an election before the Brexit deadline. If there is an election before the end of 2019, it would be the third in the past 5 years after polls in 2015 and 2017. Meanwhile, BBC Brussels correspondent Adam Fleming said the manoeuvres in Westminster are not having much of an impact in Europe. And the rest of it's just talking about the backstop we don't give a shit about. Meanwhile, the EU has said it's considering classifying a no-deal Brexit as a major disaster, like an earthquake, so countries worst affected could get access to more funding. Well, how are they paying for that? They're gonna fucking struggle in the event of a no-deal Brexit to pay for shit, let me tell you. And then we have a little piece here from Laura Kuenssberg, the BBC's political editor, and a biased cunt. It's more than just Westminster talk and rumours. If rebels defeat the government and vote for another Brexit delay, then Number 10 is considering it with utmost seriousness whether to push the button on a general election campaign. Let's hope they actually do that. The big question is whether or not the Prime Minister tries to have an election before we leave the EU, as the law currently stands on the 31st of October. The government could also put forward a date this week when they say they want to have a general election, but they could then change the date without having to have a vote from MPs, as I've already said. Labour's politicians would have very, very different views on what to do, but Jeremy Corbyn did seem to indicate he would back a general election. It would be rather awkward for him not to, when he and senior Labour politicians have been calling for a general election for such a long time. And the rest of it's just talking about what could happen with nonsense going on through Parliament. That hopefully won't matter because Boris might just call a general election and then hopefully leave it until after October the 31st. Well, hopefully this is true and Boris has decided to use this as a way to stop the traitorous EU collaborators like Dominic Grieve, Rory the Soy Boy Stewart, and that snivelling shitweasel Philip Hammond from voting against the government and it actually meaning anything. It's a smart move if it works, especially since rumours are swirling around that Boris might use this as a sleight of hand to hold a general election after Brexit VE Day on the 31st of October. He can set it now for say the 17th or 24th of October, then in a couple of weeks change the date without MPs having a say to November the 7th, which is the first Thursday after Brexit, so that is likely when it would be held. Let's hope that's what he does, and finally Brexit will have been delivered, and a proper Brexit at that. Then we can start bailing out our houses after the storm surge that will occur from floods of Ramona tears. We might need to do a Noah if the last week is anything to go by. Well, I'm going to end the video there, guys. I just want to thank the channel's PayPal, Patreon and Subscribe members for supporting the channel, along with everyone who watches my videos. Let me know what you guys think about this move by Boris Johnson in the comment section below. Leave a like, subscribe with the notification bell and share this video as it helps the channel a lot. And I will see you all in the next one.